Hello and welcome to Wing Chun Talk episode number 8. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hey, if this is your first time, please be sure to check out all the previous episodes. And if you're back for another listen, you haven't already, please drop me a review. It just helps more people find out about the Wing Chun Talk community. Why don't you just sit back and enjoy Wing Chun Talk episode number 8.
All right, welcome, Wing Chun Talk. Thank you for being here. Today I have my special guest, Ken Summers. So Ken's been training for years, and we've been training Wing Chun for several years, so we'll kind of get into that. So big warm welcome to Ken. Thank you for joining me today, Ken.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Shawn.
How things going here with the COVID? I don't typically ask about it, but I mean, we're kind of coming through it now, right?
That's kind of I think you got to have a half full glass all the time with this stuff, and hope for the best. But probably like everybody else, I've been practicing at home as much as I can, and so forth, and just try to keep things going. I was taking private lessons until they shut us down.
Yeah. Right on. So, I know you've done numerous different martial arts, and you've kind of, I don't know too much, so I'll kind of just jump in and ask you some questions to kind of get started. But
Sure.
Tell me your story, Ken.
Well, I started boxing when I was about 12 years old, and I boxed until I was about early 20s, and I had to shut that down. I got some pretty good concussions at one point, so I had a South African doctor. Gotta love South African doctors. They're point A, point B, right? And he said, "What are you planning on doing with this?" And I says, "Well, just thought I might boost it up." He says, "No, you're not that good. You're getting hit. You're not that good." He said, so
He was pretty direct.
he was pretty direct. He says, "No, you don't want to be doing too much of that." He says, "You get kids and stuff, and you want to be able to play soccer with them and without having to eat your meals through a straw." So he said, "Not boxing is not for you. You're not good."
Oh yeah.
But I did some Shotokan karate for a bit. The guys that we studied with in Manning, Alberta, there was a guy named Grizzly Mukau. He's an American, was teaching school up there, and it was a participation. We didn't have to pay for our lessons. He got to use the gym for free, and he gave his lessons for free. I studied with him for about 4 years. He didn't do any belt systems. He didn't have any, but he did a sort of a mixed martial art thing because he incorporated things that he knew. He'd done some Aikido, and he'd done some grappling and a lot of boxing. He's from Boston. He's big on the boxing thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we incorporated lots of kicks. In those days, I could actually kick higher than a 3-year-old. So, yeah. So,
All right.
So and then I got back into the Wing Chun. I got into Wing Chun later on.
So I've kind of talked to a few different guests, and did Wing Chun find you, or did you know about Wing Chun? How did you come across it?
Interesting story with it because I wasn't looking for it. My wife was his competitive bodybuilder, and she was competing in Edmonton, and I was in the parkade downtown, and I was coming up, and it'd been like I was 50 years old at the time. And there was a group of guys there, and I thought, if these guys wanted to steal my wallet, they could do it. There's not a damn thing I can do about it. I don't like that feeling. So I started talking to a bunch of guys, and I started hearing the stuff Krav Maga. And I thought, well, that looks, then I Googled it, man, that's a deadly art. And I talked to a friend of mine who's been training since he's 4 years old, but I didn't understand what he was doing. He asked me if I knew what Wing Chun was, and I asked him if it's an 80s rock band, and he kind of like,
Oh, no.
But anyways, he got me in touch with his dad, and his dad had taught 35 years in the Red Deer area. He studied under a guy from Calgary named Anthony Ng. And Anthony his Sigong was one of the disciples from Ip Man as well. I don't remember just which one, but he studied with him, and I talked to his father, and he became my first Sifu. And I was going there twice a week for 2 years, and then I had a heart attack, and I backed off from it a bit, and then life came into play, and I started another business after my heart attack. I had two businesses, and then I opened up a third business. So the Wing Chun was getting kind of away from everything. So when I slowed down, I moved up to Edmonton, then I found our school. I was looking at a series of them. There was a bunch of schools I was going to go check out. And I went to this one, ours, and I sat through the one class, and I didn't go any further. I knew exactly where I wanted to be. I knew exactly. I went to McKernan. That's exactly where I knew this was the school. This was the one.
Nice.
Yeah. So I looked for it, and it found me.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's similar to kind of how I stumbled upon our club as well, right? Like, I mean, some friends told me to check out a couple different clubs, and I only checked out ours and have stuck. So, which, is awesome. So, I know you just had surgery on your shoulder. So, how long have you been injured, or have you been training like on and off injured? Tell me a little bit.
The injury actually happened November 8th of 2019, and I was training all the way through it. And then I just couldn't do it anymore. I missed a bunch of time. I wasn't going to classes, but I started doing private lessons with Sifu at his house, right? Because no disrespect to anybody, but some of those guys got heavy hands. They put a lot of pressure, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Any other time, like someone pushes, I just push back, but I just couldn't do it. And Sifu's he's traditional Wing Chun, not a lot of pressure and stuff, and that, and I was able to do the skills and that, and maintain my belt level and stuff, right? So, and I got the chance to do the Wing Chun dummy more often and that as well. So,
So basically, like with the injury, it's just it would strain or put too much pressure on you if you're coming to class.
I only had a couple of tendons left holding the shoulder together at that point. The rotator cuff, I had the supraspinatus and the subscapularis were torn right off. So there's only a couple left holding that thing together. And my outer bicep tendon had jumped out of the track. So it was sublexed across this way. So when they fixed it, they drilled about 6 holes in my humerus bone. They put like wall anchors in, and they sew those tendons back to the bone. But with the bicep tendon, they cut it and they relocated it. So now it's anchored in just below the humerus bone, but closer into the front. I should get 100% mobility back out of it. It's a strange thing when you think about it. But lots of people, it's called a tenodesis, and a lot of people get this, and they're good. My brother just went through this exact same surgery, and he's doing great.
No kidding, eh? So they say recovery should be 100%. And what's the time? Do they give you a timeline on something like that?
It seems to vary. Some people say 4 to 6 months. Some people say, maybe 8 months. I tend to heal a lot faster than some because I don't know. I'd like to say don't baby it, but this is probably one of those things where I actually should take it easy. And I'm such an impatient guy that I'll be starting to do things I'm probably not supposed to do.
Yeah.
But I've had the same surgery on my other shoulder about 4 years ago. So I kind of know what I'm getting into. I feels pretty good right now, and I'm going into it'll be the third week on the 31st. It'll be the 3 weeks, and I have an appointment in Calgary as a backup, but it feels good. I can't lift my arm up. Yeah, I get to a certain point, and that's it. That's as far as you're going to go. But I haven't started physio yet.
When's that gonna kick in? Do they have do they have you on a kind of a timeline, Ken, for like certain things that physio or whatever it is, and then maybe
yeah, they do. And I think once I see him on the 2nd, I'll get more conclusive. I've been doing I was started physio before the surgery, and I was doing it just like this right here online, right?
Oh, okay.
But I really want to get into their space and actually have them working with me, because that's where I'll make my better gains, because then I can come home and I can do it. But working through an injury like this, your biggest thing is a shoulder is a very, very complicated joint. It's one of the more complicated ones. And if you mess this up, now I got to go back and get it fixed up again. And doctor's not usually too happy to see you the second time, right? Because you mess up his work. So it's just a matter of doing what you're supposed to. And I'm such a rebellious type of a person. I got to nip that back a bit, right?
So you basically just want to kind of push it and expedite it and speed up the healing process,
and
even though our body has a natural healing cycle, right?
Well, I know about 2 years ago, I had a muscle spasm in one of my calves, and it was such an intense cramp in the middle of the night. And I got up to try to stretch it out, and it tore the muscle tissue, right? And so I laid off for about a week or so, and then I went to Kung Fu class, and we were doing our forms, and it tore again. And then I was on crutches for 2 months. So it is, when you got that type of an injury, you just gotta do what you gotta do to stay away from hurting it again. And I'm an impatient guy, like I said. Okay, I gotta stop being that way with some things. But go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was just gonna say, so how does that affect you, like training then? Say, like, I mean, because I don't think the first shoulder happened when we were training together, or did it?
No, it happened in November, and I slipped on the ice, and that set it off, right? So it had actually was coming along quite nicely, so that I could do some of the motions, even with it was torn. What happens when I started physio before the surgery? It aggravated everything, and then it started, right? So right now everything's put back together, and everything's trying to heal back. Muscles and tendons are stiff, and muscles have been sitting since November, so they're just like, hey, we're coming out of retirement or what, so they don't want to do nothing, right? So I gotta wait and make sure that I take the time and just do it right. It's just otherwise, like, I want to be 62 my next birthday, man. Like, and it just I can't do this stuff forever, so I gotta get healed, right?
Yeah, be patient, let your body heal, and then train. How do you cope then? Say, like, when you're on crutches that one time when you hurt your leg.
That was bad because everything is the simplest things become a big chore, like getting up and down stairs, or what do you mean the elevator's not working? Damn, well, guess what? Now you're going upstairs. Even just little things like getting dressed. That's the hardest thing, is getting dressed when you're messed up and stuff, right? I was smart because I'm this time around, I figured, because I'm right-handed, right? It's my right shoulder. I installed a bidet.
Hey.
My brother and I talked about this, and I said, hey, he says, I asked him, how did you do it? He says, well, it was difficult. And I says, well, don't your kids kind of like owe you a butt wiping? I mean,
my.
Yeah, and he says, but they know volunteers, right? So he says, brother, buy yourself a bidet. Save the anguish. Save the anguish. There we go.
You're right-handed, and good thinking. That was total planning ahead. Nice work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, back to training. How is it, like, when you have been injured? Obviously, you didn't push the shoulder. You went to see Sifu. You did some privates, but otherwise, you've hurt yourself before previously. Do you just kind of step back and again let your body heal, even though you're impatient, or you try to train at home? Like, what's your method?
Once the COVID kicked in, it kind of took care of all of it for me.
Yeah.
Because now all of a sudden I couldn't train at all with Sifu even, and I understood but I was training at home anyways, and then since the surgery, I still train. I just keep my arm in the sling and I work one side. I work my legs as normal. I do my forms, but instead of actually moving the arm, when I move my right arm where it should be, I just imagine in it. I imagine the thing in my mind. That's like, hey, it's like if you don't have a wooden dummy, you imagine it in front of you. Close your eyes, imagine it. So I do a lot of training that way. I just imagine the move, and One of the things that I'm starting to realize, I remember when we watched Lance's, Lance had done his interview with you, and he mentioned something about making mind electrical connections,
Right.
cognitive electrical connections, and I'm starting to realize that how that works now. It made more sense now.
Mm.
I mean, he explained it great. It was a great explanation, and why repetition and stuff. Well, this is kind of like a virtual reality for me when I try to work that one arm. It's got to be like a virtual reality. I have to imagine it.
Yeah.
Now, what's going to happen when I can actually move it? I don't know. But the connections are there. The brain connections are there, right?
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. As long as I can get the movement, let's see if it works.
Yeah. That'll be interesting to see kind of how, if that connection is made quicker. Like, I mean, when you do have the mobility back in that arm, because are you saying you have zero mobility, or is it pretty low?
I'm not supposed to move my elbow away from my body. I
Okay.
can do anything. I can type. I can write as long as I don't move my elbow. I'm not even supposed to bend the elbow by itself
Well, that's
because the
tricky then doing Wing Chun, because I mean we're well, I
that's
guess elbow
well,
in
that's
or
for now. Yeah, once the tendon is healed in there, it's fine. Like I do have to exercise it, and I started the very day after surgery, but I have to physically take my arm and lift my wrist up and down. I can't work it by itself just to get the mobility back. And it honestly, it doesn't hurt. There's
well,
no pain in that at all. The
that's
only
good.
pain is in the shoulder.
Mm,
That's the only pain where it's at. It's right where the implants are and those bone anchors, right?
mm-hmm,
I move the shoulder too much. Okay, but the bicep doesn't hurt.
mm,
It's strange. It's weird, but it's not hurting at all. And
mm.
that's the part that's dangerous. That's where it will get dangerous because then I'll go do something I'm not supposed to. 'Cause it
As in,
feels
like, because it doesn't feel like it hurts.
doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
There's no pain in it right now. So, and I got mobility. I can bend it just like the other arms. I'm not supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying not to, right? But it was actually, the surgery was only a couple hours and the orthoscopic. So the incisions are only like 1 or 2 stitches to close, really tiny incisions.
Really?
Yeah,
And they're pros at it, that so that you were in and out. Was it day surgery for you, or were you in over?
no, it was a day surgery. Went up the night before. I was out in 2 hours, maybe an hour
Wow.
and a half. Yeah, hour and a half, I think is the surgery time. I was out. And within an hour and a half, I went back to the hotel, stayed overnight in a hotel again because I didn't want to drive back to Edmonton from Calgary like that. My
Gotcha.
wife drove me, right? So
Nice.
I don't do anesthesia well. When I come out, I'm usually pretty sick and stuff. So I
Yeah,
just
I know. Yeah,
didn't
I
want
know
to do
that.
that.
Yeah. Wow. So, okay, so that was kind of back in November. So when you got injured, you toned off classes and then started doing some private lessons.
Yeah, I did private lessons. I worked at home as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the initial injury took about 6 weeks before it was really not hurting too bad. But then again, the pain went away. There was not really a lot of pain anymore, and I could still do a lot of things, lift things overhead and stuff within reason, and it wasn't hurting. It didn't really start hurting until I started physio again, because it started pushing me a little harder than I was giving it. I was kind of babying it. So yeah, moving it around and stuff wasn't an issue after a bit. The pain did go away. I could sleep at night and everything.
And this is pre-surgery, or is this
This is pre-surgery.
really?
Before the surgery, it didn't hurt all that much until I started physiotherapy. Then
Hmm.
it started coming getting sore again, right?
Well, I bet you were doing stuff because you knew what was painful, so you probably just pulled back on some of those movements and
I was pretty upfront with my therapist and I told him, look, I do this and it really hurts. And he said, okay, well, let's take that one off and do this one instead. And I was doing like push-ups with a rubber ball against a wall and stuff,
yep,
just stuff like just simple stuff, not really, and like 1 and 2 pound dumbbells and stuff, that kind of stuff. And it's like,
yeah.
you would think, well, okay, but he said it would help to tone the muscles that were there, so that
Mm,
when surgery came along, that it would support the rest of the newly reattached muscle tissue and tendons, right?
well, yeah. Wow. So tell me a little bit of the differences, say, between going to class and doing some private one-on-ones.
Well, With private, you do, I think it escalates it. It takes it to another level because it's one-on-one and you're getting 100% of Sifu's focus on you, and
Mm,
he's getting you to do it right. He's watching you, he's coaching you, and it's good because he pushes you pretty good too, which is great. I
mm-hmm.
mean, like the first, I did as much or almost as much running around as we do anyway. And it's, you know, he has me sweating and huffing and puffing.
Yeah.
But it's good stuff, eh? But then, yeah, we focus one on one, and it's the private is actually almost a non. It's not like us at the. There's no real breaks, really. It's a couple breaks, but it's not break, right? I
It's
mean,
really
we're gonna.
wipe your brow and
Oh,
maybe have a sip of
and,
water and let's keep
yeah,
going.
and let's get back at it. And I understand. I mean, he's cramming everything into that 1 hour, and that's good, and you learn so much from it.
Mm-hmm.
Classes are good. I like classes because you get to train with other people as well and at different levels. So it's good. One of the things I really miss from our classes is all those young people are not there anymore because we had a lot of those guys that had been taking Wing Chun with Sifu since they're 5 or 6 years old, and now they're all graduated and gone away. And I used to learn a lot from them because
Mm-hmm.
they've been doing it so long. And sometimes when they explain things, their explanations make pretty good sense because it's not as complicated as an older person would how they would explain it. They're just a little bit easier to understand someplace.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's interesting. Like, I mean, with time and life and how, you'll see students come for a certain amount of time, whether they're
mm,
students and going to university, so they have the 4 years and then they'll go off and life kind of happens. You really
yeah,
got to budget or book that time in if it's important to you to do it.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
What's your reasoning, Ken, for Wing Chun? I know you kind of said those guys could steal your wallet, but what keeps you coming back? What keeps you?
Um, when I'm not injured,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what keeps me coming back is I like the art itself,
Yeah.
and there's a precision to it. It's almost like a Japanese tea ceremony. There's
Mm,
precision. There's a technique. There's a structure to it. And I know that like I know this could go into so many different avenues. I do understand um, people training with Wing Chun and taking it off target a bit. I understand their reasoning for it, and I also understand people who want to keep it traditional because,
mm,
like for example, yourself and some of the guys, some of our black belts that you guys are with, those guys are they're really strict with how they do things. They
mm,
do things according to the book, right?
mm,
They
mm,
they do that they're precise, and
mm,
that's the part that I like is the precision part. Um, if I was doing this out in the street for real, I think the precision part wouldn't take me very far. I think a lot of the other things I've done background would come into play. And I think I've mentioned this a few times. One of the toughest guys I ever knew in my life was a street fighter, never had any training whatsoever. And you watch him, you'd swear he watched a lot of Bruce Lee movies. The guy was absolutely amazing to watch. Never had any training, but he just fought a lot and
really?
he
Yeah.
was good at it. And I think
The
when well, I think when this stuff comes down for real, one of the reasons why I looked at Wing Chun was because of how fast it can be. It can end as long as you know that the person in front of you isn't Bruce Lee. But
Yeah.
you don't know. You don't know who anybody is, so you just got to kind of hope for the best. You're hoping that you're going to be faster, more accurate. And even when this last interview you had with the gentleman from England
Yes.
or UK, I loved his comment because they train for real situations, which I think is good. So we learn certain moves, and it's good to know the move, but it's also, I think, a good idea is to train to end your fight, to end it. So once you do the move, I think it doesn't hurt to throw in some end game moves. Throats, eyes. Like if you can't see, can't breathe, can't walk, you go home. He doesn't, right? So I think those type of shots are good to practice, because if you ever just do a certain move in real life and you're waiting for a result, it might not happen. You know what I'm saying? I have a friend of mine that was in a tough man competition in Rocky Mountain House. His kid had actually got into it, and there was one guy. There was just he was a phenomenal fighter, as mixed martial arts type of a thing, and he got in the ring with Shawn and Shawn Hopcraft, and Shawn kicked the guy in the head, and it rocked him. And this guy was a knockout artist, right? And Shawn stopped and watched to see if he was falling. And then the guy hit him with an overhand hand and broke his nose. So when I hear a lot of people training, and a lot of the Sifus I hear, and a lot of the people I hear the comments where they've got real life stuff happening, and I agree with that to a point. I think it's a good idea. Like I would never say this is how everybody should train, but I think if that's your reasoning for studying the art, I think you should take a look at that side of it. I always think that if you give somebody an opportunity to hurt you again, he'll do it. If you stop him in his tracks, then I've had to fight situations where I've had more than one guy attack at the same time. And one of the things I learned really, really early in life is that you got to move, and you can't stop moving until you're the last one standing. And if you stop, the other guy gets you. So you have to be very efficient, and you got to throw unconventionally. You got to do whatever, right? But street fighting is deadly. People die in street fights. So it's serious. It's not like in the ring sparring or fighting. It's different. You don't have a referee. You don't have a canvas mat. You got a cement sidewalk or a curb. You're going to hit your head off if you get knocked.
I mean, you see some of these YouTube videos where it's just like fights that don't end well or something, and they're throwing these huge things, and they'll knock a guy out, and then these guys don't care about him. They'll come up and kick him a few times. Like that's brutal, right? Like, I mean,
scary. It's a scary world out there. It really is. I learned very young. When I was maybe 7 years old, I lived back in New Brunswick, and where we lived was an old army barracks that had been converted into apartments, and it was blocks and blocks of these things. And there was a lot of dysfunctional people there. And when I was 7, a friend of mine from school, we were outside, and his father was working on a car with his best friend. And they'd been drinking, and they were getting kind of argumentative. And something happened between the two of them. And all of a sudden, these two adults are swinging it out. And my friend's dad grabbed a hammer and killed his friend with a hammer in front of us. So I learned very, very young that just what happens when people are in an uncontrolled situation. And I saw it firsthand as a 7-year-old kid. And I went in the house screaming and crying, and my mom says, "What's wrong?" And I couldn't tell her, because I didn't know how to put the words when I saw her.
wow.
But it was so. I've never been a real street fighter type guy. I've not been one of those tough guys that go looking for troubles, because I just it just doesn't end well some days, you know.
Yeah, no, I know, and there's different reasons for people to learn whatever it is they want to learn. Wing Chun. I mean, and that's why, I mean, certain people gravitate to certain clubs, right? So I mean, if they want to know sport fighting, but they maybe have the background in Wing Chun, maybe they'll find a school that has that. I know, a couple of different guys, like you mentioned Sifu Lewis from the UK. Yeah, we were chatting. He says they train for sort of application of fights, and they spar a little bit. And same with Lee Oliver a few episodes ago mentioned the same thing. I would say you could agree or disagree, Ken, but I mean, our club is more, would you say it's more geared towards the art of Wing Chun, or then, like, how would you explain it?
We learn the art, but a lot of the things that Sifu teaches us, he'll tell you flat out, 300-pound man, I'll take him down just like that. He's dead. And he's telling you, and when he demonstrates that.
That's so true. Yeah, he pushes me around often. Yeah.
I usually ask him if I can see it again when he's got you squealing there. But yeah, but yeah, he teaches us. He does teach us the reality of it. He really does. But the art is definitely there as well. Every once in a while, though, I mean, he says, just do what you want, and we do what we want, and we don't hurt each other, obviously. But from time to time, we do get a chance to, I guess, what sparring is, as we would call it. That's kind of our sparring for us, I guess.
Like a problem
Um,
solver, jigsaw.
Problem solving, yeah. And it's more just a free for all kind of thing, throw whatever you want kind of thing and just do what you can with it and stuff. And I think at that point, that's when people can start to, like when we work with a guy like Jeff. I mean, Jeff's a very creative guy. You know, when you spar with Jeff, he gets very creative. You always got to be on your toes with him because
Yep,
he's very, very fast.
for
He's
sure.
very quick. And he keeps you thinking. And
Mm.
so when you spar with Jeff like that, you have to be ready for that because he's going to do it. You
And
know.
that's great training, right? Like, and that's the benefit of training with different people in
Yeah.
the club, right? I mean, you'll get your Jeff, who's that creative, spontaneous, like always be careful, and then you'll have other guys that are just a little more
Mhm.
conservative. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's the really nice thing of training different with
for
different
sure.
people. I didn't actually. That's a good point you made though earlier about how Sifu demonstrates the reality of certain moves. Like
Mhm.
it can be like a final type move, which
Yeah.
I don't know if I forget that. It just seems like because we don't spar and then we see a lot of people talking in like the Wing Chun Talk group
Mhm.
just about sparring versus not sparring. It kind of comes up
Yeah.
often. And,
Well,
um,
we don't know a whole, I don't think we know a lot about Sifu's history per se as it is. I don't think there's anybody really that knows him that well. But I think his background, his training, I mean, it's right straight from Hong Kong and
mhm.
they train real. They train for real at a lot of places there. I mean, they don't mess around. And same as Sifu Sue. I mean, she just looks like this tiny, little lady and stuff like that. But honestly, I would love to see someone try to steal her bingo money. You know what I'm saying? She'd have those guys crying in no time flat.
Yeah, be a mess. That's right for them,
It
for
would
sure.
be a mess. She'd make a mess of those people.
Yeah, totally. Well, awesome. What, yeah, no, that's a good point. I can't remember if Lance had mentioned the profession because I think he was, I don't want to say military, but like something along that line. But I don't want to misspeak, so I'm not 100% sure about his background. So yeah, I'll just kind of leave it at that. But
I
you're right.
think I read someplace where maybe Sifu may have been in the military, police, some form of police officer.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think
Yeah. So
that's
yeah, no, the training is real life applicable. Like you can elbow somebody in a sternum, and that would be a terrible spot to get
absolute,
in, right? Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
So what do you got any tips for people on kind of your specialty, which is terrible to say, but like injuries. Like if somebody has an injury, what's your recommendation to kind of
Oh
work?
well. Um, if it doesn't hurt right away and it starts to hurt in 20 minutes, go see a doctor.
Mm,
Sometimes the worst injuries I've ever had, it didn't actually hurt, and so you get this little denial thing going. So if the pain starts coming in really hard in 20 minutes, you've done something serious. Or if it just doesn't feel right, or if it doesn't look right, you need to get looked at. I've done a lot of first aid in some of the professions because I've been an emergency responder, right, a firefighter.
hmm.
So I've seen a lot of injuries and I've seen some bad injuries. So um, if if it's under the skin and it just doesn't feel right, or if you can't move it and or if you feel like you're going to throw up, you hurt yourself bad. Your
Right.
body's telling you, "Hey, I'm in shock. You need to go get looked at." The big thing is not to downplay it to yourself. Now that's easy for me saying it. Now I got to try and practice what I preach, right? Because I've got to be the worst guy. But yeah, if it's not looking right, if it's not feeling right, if you feel like you're going to throw up or pass out, you need to see a doctor. You've hurt yourself bad.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
definitely, the doctor's going to give you the same advice as they do when they in your first aid books: rest, immobilize, cold, and elevation. So he's telling you the truth. People who sprain their ankles over and over and over again, the same ankle, what it is they didn't listen to that advice the first time. Now they have a weakened joint because the ligaments never healed correctly, or the
So,
tendons.
so it's susceptible to, or it's weak.
Susceptible. It's weaker.
Uh,
The only advice I have for stuff like that is that if your joints are weakened up like that, go talk to a specialist and see what he says. A lot of time he's going to say you need to do some type of training and build up the muscle and shorten the muscle up and do this and do that. But talk to the specialist. Let them guide you through this, because
mm-hmm.
um, sometimes the injuries you get as a young person will plague you for the rest of your life if you don't take care of them initially. We
Mm-hmm.
have one of our young students like that. He ripped all his knee apart, twisted his knee in paintball. It
Mm-hmm.
just ripped his knee right apart. And he came to classes a couple of times. He says, "Watch my knee, okay? Watch with my knee," and he's doing the right thing. He's taking his time. But his doctor told him flat out, He's 18 years old. He says, "You're probably going to have arthritis in that knee by the time you're like 25 to 30 years old." I'm thinking, that's a sentence for someone that young, to have that kind of injury, right?
No kidding. Yeah, and the knees are it was super important as well, right? Part of knees and shoulder. Well, I mean, your whole body is important. So
Mm, yeah,
shoulders, right? Like, yeah, take it easy with your shoulder, and hopefully you heal 100% for you. I mean,
yeah. Well,
yeah,
you're not in your 40s yet, are you?
just man, just over
Just
over the COVID break or pandemic,
you,
whatever
you
we're calling
touched
it.
into okay. Yeah, you're at that point now. So now, when you get injured, you don't recover as fast as you used to. When you get damaged, it seems like the damage just seems worse sometimes. Um, as you get older, it just doesn't get any better. And
Mm.
then you got to wait till you get old and your bones get brittle and stuff like that. Am I scaring you?
So no, yeah, so long here. So again, Steve, don't get hurt. No, but if you do, I mean, take the precautions, right? Heal up, and then train,
Absolutely.
ease
Just
yourself.
listen to what your doctor tells you, right? And try to get away from your own sense of impatience. It's just try to be patient, and that's the big thing. And
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to be patient,
Oh,
Sometimes.
for sure. For sure. I'm chomping at the bit to get back. We've been off what almost 3 months now,
Yeah.
and I was doing some home training. I think I've said this a few times, but yeah, tweaked something as well, and was frustrated with myself that I did that. Not nearly as bad as you, so but it's feeling pretty
Yeah.
good now, and I'll be ready
Yeah.
to start
With
kind of.
your injury now, it's probably good if you do some warm ups and really get the stretching in, so
Yeah,
that you don't re-injure. But
mobility.
I really enjoyed some of the videos that you guys had started doing, and then your Wing Chun dummy video. I really really liked it.
Oh,
Uh,
cool. Yeah,
I like to see it broken up into sections. That way, I can practice at home too. Because I watch them over and over again too, right? I'll
yeah, yeah.
watch like I bought some of the DVDs and stuff like that from Sifu. So the butterfly swords, I've almost got that form down
Oh,
by
wow.
before the surgery I did. Now it's a one arm form, of course, but I you can keep going back to it, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
good to have these things as a reference point. So if you get kind of sloppy, no, that's okay. That's how it's got to be done, right?
And for that, do you have an air? You do air dummy, or do you have a wooden dummy?
I have an air dummy. Yeah.
Nice. Those are
I
good
well
in
when
their
I
own
when I
right, right?
when I do it on a real dummy, I sometimes I got to close my eyes.
Ah, you've
I've
drilled.
noticed that sometimes if I don't close my eyes, sometimes I mess up. As
Huh.
soon as I close my eyes, I hit the arms and I got the feel, but now I'm actually feeling it. But so the virtual reality thing for me actually works quite well for me because it makes that mental connection. I guess I think that's what it's doing. It's
Yeah, like
making the connection.
totally. It's a simulation, sort of in your mind, and then kind of a virtual sim in your in your head? I don't know. We could talk. Lance would probably know all about that. I'm definitely no expert on that things, but
Well, I know I've worked with some of you guys before, and some of the moves that you guys do, um, it takes me a while to learn them,
mm,
and I have to watch really closely when they're being demonstrated. And when I try to perform them, I stop at a certain point and I don't remember the next part of it because I didn't realize it's because the connection's not there. So I
right.
have to do it slow. I have to do it really slow and make the connection one stage at a time to get from point A to point B. And
Mm.
sometimes it's frustrating because I'm working with guys who know this move, and I'm slowing you guys down. I just know it.
No, that's the thing. I mean, we like there's different stages, right? Like, I mean, that's the thing. It's just like, yeah, I think we're kind of talking about this with Sifu Lewis last week about how the Gary Lamb system breaks it down into these levels. I mean, we have belt systems, but yeah, you have to go through these growing pains of, oh, this is so frustrating. I got to do it over and over. And then once you finally get it, it's just like, oh, the light bulb is turned on. And then, I mean, maybe it'll be a struggle a little bit less or until you finally have it down.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah,
I'm looking at this in the long run anyway. So I'm not right now. I'm at a blue belt level, and um, I just wanted to make sure I got past the green.
mm,
I wanted the blue, and
yeah,
now if it takes me 5, 10 years to get my black, I'm fine with that. Because I
awesome.
got to know I have to be able to do this right. If I'm not doing it right, I don't deserve to get that recognized level. That's how I look at it. So if it
That's
takes me 5 years or 10 years, I'm fine with that. I
nice.
just didn't want to be an orange and green anymore. I wanted that blue belt because now it's like, all right, well, you don't have to wear short pants anymore. You know, you got the blue belt, right? You get the Huggies pull ups, man. So
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, you're moving on up. Moving on up. Awesome.
moving on up. Now you're going to learn some stuff. Now we really learn the stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with that.
Because you're doing, yeah, I mean, Chum Q, right? Chum Q is, or the full Chum Q.
Yeah, I'm doing the full Chum Q, and I have a video. Like I got videos at home,
Nice.
so I get to pause, rewind, and I can see where I'm. So I get to do that, and I know learning this off of a video is not like really like in the classroom. I understand that too, but at least when I go to class, I'll be able to keep up with other people, and I can see what they're doing. And if let's say I'm doing Chum Q and I'm not doing it right, and one of the black belts is walking around, like, oh, okay, you got to do it this way, then he can tweak it.
Yeah.
At least the connection's made. I just got to tweak it.
Yeah, the
That's the big
small
thing.
fine tuning.
Fine tuning, yeah, and our black belts, you guys are great, man. You guys are awesome for stuff like that. You guys are very helpful, right? And it's great. You guys are a great network of information for the rest of us. Um, and we have a pretty good group. I think we have a lot of really really good people in there, and we have some really well talented people, which is great. Like I love when Robert comes in from time to time. You know, he's I would love to see him interviewed because he's probably got some pretty interesting perspectives as well. But it's nice when he comes in, even when he does a class for Sifu, because sometimes I think one time we brought the bags in, right? We're actually doing some striking and working on the punching, and that was really good. So and then Lance takes over. It's different. There's another level he brings to it as well, right? Which is always good. Very
Mm-hmm.
knowledgeable guy, right? Very
Mm-hmm.
knowledgeable.
Totally. Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
yeah, I totally agree. Well, Ken, I appreciate you. Do you have anything, want to drop any more golden nuggets for us or, how, I know
No,
you're part
no,
of,
I think I'm good. I was I was more. I've been really really trying not to throw any f bombs and stuff like because I got a truck driver mouth, right? So I mean, this was the big focus was not to swear on and stuff like that.
oh,
So
appreciate
anyway,
it.
but no, it's good. I'm glad you're doing well, Sean. And oh, by the way, I do have some books for you.
Oh,
If you still want to read that Hemingway, I got some. I found them.
oh, really?
Mind you, now that you can get outside and stuff, you probably don't want to sit at home and read. So, but
We'll talk after.
yeah,
Perfect, man. Well, I know you're part of the Wing Chun Talk group, so that's how people can get in touch or ask any other questions, right?
Absolutely,
Otherwise, yeah, I mean, and
yeah.
you're in there often.
And it's good. I mean, our numbers are climbing, and we're getting a lot of people requesting to join, and I think that's great. I'd like to hear from some of you guys too, as well. Like, throw some comments in, give us some videos and demonstrations, give us some tips, pointers.
Hmm.
We all learn from this, and yeah, it's awesome. And I think everybody that so far we've been talking to have been pretty good
Mm-hmm.
with that, and a really respectful bunch of guys, and that's awesome. It's been a good gig.
Yes,
So
yes.
looking to jump up to 1,000 here by next
I hear
month.
you. Yes, let's push. Let's push. Hey, that's great.
That's
That's a good target.
Never know. Next time we do this, it might be on YouTube, might go mainstream. Who knows, right? It might be streaming this one.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Yeah, no doubt. Awesome, Cam. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate chatting with you and kind of digging into, how you found Wing Chun and just dealing with what you've had to deal with, your surgery and just a
Uh,
couple other little hiccups along the way. So,
I think I'm so used to this that it's not that bad anymore. Just it's just another injury, just another
yeah,
surgery.
you just keep pushing. Just
Just
keep
keep going. Just like
awesome.
your Wing Chun, just keep on going.
That's right.
Just
Just
keep
keep
going.
keep going.